Good morning, everyone, on this regular monthly Tonglen practice session. And then good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are, as I used to say in my old videos, to those of you who are watching the YouTube later. I had a nice surprise the other day. Now, it's probably just a coincidence, but maybe you know the singer Annie Lennox, who used to come to Samiling. I saw a start of a video from her the other day. It was on a political issue. And she started by saying, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, just like I used to. So who knows? Anyway, to Tonglen. Tonglen, which is a wonderful practice. Tonglen, which comes from the mind training teachings from Atisha, condensed for us by Cheiko Ayeshi Doji into the 7-point mind training. And so our Tonglen is part of the second point, which is the actual meditation practices. I want to come back to that focus today for us all, because we've been doing more than a year now of these Saturday, once a month Tonglen trainings. And I think it's good to, like you do with the camera, pull back and look at the bigger picture. But because we are doing this as part of our Bodhisattva path, and it's very, very vital, we start with an excellent motivation. Our hearts full of love for each and every sentient being, from the best to the worst, all of them. And in particular, for those connected with us through karma, our parents, our children, our siblings, those who've been powerful presences in our life, for the better or the worse. They're all part of our karma, and releasing our karma, releasing our mind from the power of our karma, is so much what the Buddha's practice is about. And then a very happy mind, as you know, happy because we have Dharma, and Dharma is forever, the rest isn't. So let's start with a few heartfelt prayers of refuge, of bodhicitta, and of the 4 limitless contemplations: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. Thank you. Sonje chodan soji chonamla jancho badu dane chapsunji tagi jinso jipe sanamji drola penchara sonje droparashu. Semchen tamche dewa dang dewe judang dempara juche dongal dang dongal ji judang tralwara juche Tonglen May dewa tampa dang men tralwara juche Nyeren chadan netang tralwe tanyom chempola nepara juche Deyata shame shamawate shameta shatru Om kore marajite karota ke ore te jowati oloyane bishodane male malapanaye kukure kaka grasana muki paramuki amuki shamme dawane sawa graha bandhanane ne griheta sawa bhava pravadina vimukta marapasha savitva Buddha mudra anugatita savamare butsarita parishuddhi bhigashantu savamara kama. Allen Sawin Lama Rinpoche, Tagil Chiwara Bende Denshola, Kadrin Chempo Gune Jesonte, Makoson Tuje Nadrup Saldo Sol. So, as we usually do, then, although Tonglen is very much about practice, and these monthly sessions are about practicing together, I'll start with a bit of teaching, and in the hope that you will be practicing not just on this one day a month, but of course through the month, and using these once a month sessions in order to sort of nourish your month of practice. So over the last month and a half, we've been looking at these 8 worldly concerns and doing Tonglen practice with a focus on those 4 pairs of things. We've found different names, but anyway, loss and gain, praise and blame, esteem and shame, pleasure and pain. So, why? Of course, we are concerned as bodhisattvas with our fellow beings' conditions. And so, for instance, with loss and gain, as we've seen, people are happy usually when they are gaining, and they are unhappy when they're losing, and so on. So, of course, through our concern for others, then we focus on these things. And then, and this is pertinent to today, as we awaken to what the Buddha's teaching is about, and in particular in Mahayana, to the ultimate truth, the voidness of everything, and to the relative truth, the interdependent nature of everything and everyone, then we realize that we are working in 2 fields, really. We're working with the fortunate ones, and this is very much the case of my life. Those who are drawn to Dharma, those who connect with Dharma, and then those who practice Dharma. So part of our activity is with the fortunate ones to help them on their way. And then the other part with the less fortunate ones who are not drawn to a path of liberation from worldliness, to help them as long as they're going to be being reborn and reborn and reborn, to make the best job of it possible. And there, the teachings on good and bad, right conduct, harmful conduct, the power of karma are vital. So when we are thinking honestly about, what are you going to be doing for the next 1,000 lives or so as a bodhisattva if you're really off on this path? It bears thinking about, because if you've signed up for it, you want to know what you've signed up for. Then part of it will be your own liberation, and with Dharma brothers and sisters like we are here, and trying to support each other, work together. But part of it would just be kind of damage limitation, damage repair within samsara, where you want to help people live as best we can. So in other teachings, we look at what are called the 7 treasures of life, where we want people to have long life and good health and enough resources and friends and respect, and also to be living in times of peace rather than warfare and conflict, living in a family of peace rather than a family of conflict, and last, to be in times of harmony, where the elements, the seasons, the weather, the earth, the spirits, the invisible beings, the Naga forces, there is harmony. So we are working for a world where these things happen. And when we see the stories of real bodhisattvas, we see that they manifest not just as Dharma teachers, but they manifest sometimes as, well, these days we'd say scientists and benefactors who help bring these 7 good qualities to the world. So what I wanted to do today is talk about us, right? So, and then us as bodhisattvas. So now we've been through these worldly concerns. I don't want to go back and revise them, because then a lot of time's gone. The recordings are there. We spent an hour with each one. So why are they important for us? Well, they're the problem. And in Vajrayana Buddhism, we talk a lot about now the 8 worldly concerns. They're mentioned, but if you go looking and trawling for teachings on the 8 worldly concerns, you won't find much. What you'll find, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is that those 4 pairs, if we made like a family tree, we go up 1 step, they give rise to our hope and fear. Hope, expectation, hope, this invisible world that we all carry of how the future might be, how it will be, how we expect it to be, hope. And then fear. Fear also means anxiety, tension, worry, stress. These 2 pulls, when you are mindful, when you are doing your Buddhist practice, you will find them at play in yourself all the time. They are not helpful. They are the obstacles to our progress. So I want to go to Gampopa's teaching, and I'd like us to reflect together a little bit. Basic stuff, but I think very often we miss the basics to our own loss. So why? Why do things happen? Why did we take refuge? That's very basic. Either there is a God, like so many billions of people believe in this world, or there isn't. If there's a God, then don't be here. Tough luck. God's in control. God gives us our deal of cards. We've got our own way of dealing with it. If you do, you're safe forever. If you don't, tough luck, and so on. Either there is a God or there isn't. So we've decided there is no creator, all-powerful God, as in the religions of the book. The reason we took refuge as Buddhists, the main point of all the Buddha's teaching is karma, cause and effect. We are who we are, and things happen in the way they do because of the innate power of karma. No third party out there judging, condemning, dealing out nice things and so on. awful things. It's the power of what we've done in the past that is writing the story of the present. And it's what we do in reaction to the story of the present that's writing the story of the future. So just like either there is God or there isn't God, either there is karma or there isn't karma. If there's no karma, then carpe the diem, grab the day. It's interesting. You make never mind. I was going to say an anagram of carpe diem, you get crappy diem. But anyway, it's samsara. In grabbing the day, we spoil tomorrow in the long term. But either there is karma or there isn't. When we start out in the Vajrayana path, in the Mahamudra path, the very first thing we think about is the karma you've got to be here. Many of us have done this. How well have we done it? I don't want to sound tough or judgmental, but I don't think we've done it very well. I can certainly say that for myself. Now, let me, if I can, share an image with you. Okay. So, can you put a hand up if you can see this? Yeah. Okay. It's about face mites. Now, we all have hundreds of thousands of these on our face. They live in the pores. They eat the grease from the pores. They live for about 10 days. They mate. So, what is this? It looks like a sentient being. It eats, it mates, moves around, and there are several 100,000 of them on your face. And when you're sleeping at night, you've got this mass fornication going on all over your face as they mate with each other and make new ones. It may be a primitive form of sentient being, but it's certainly not just like a glob of chemicals. Okay, well, let's get rid of those because they're a bit, not so nice. But look around. You can't see these unless you've got a microscope. You might not want to look in the microscope if you've got one. But how many non-human sentient beings there are? Either there is karma or there isn't. If there is karma, how the hell did they end up like that? Of course, we don't have all the answers, but the sheer volume, the number of face mites on this planet, and all the other things that fly, that creep, that crawl, we think of them like our mother, like our past best friend. How did they end up like that? What hope is there for them? And then us, just now we are super complacent. Although we are going through one rebirth, and it will end, and then you'll be reborn quite different. You'll forget all this. Just now, it feels normal. Normal. As though it's going to be like that forever. And even if you believe in reincarnation, you'll think, well, yeah, probably be human again next time. Please don't believe that. It takes so much. It took so much to get you here. So much good karma. If only you could see it with Buddha's eyes, with Jim Rezik's eyes. You would be so grateful that you got this brief, impermanent opportunity that you have now. So Gampopa, in his teachings, hammers this into us, because when Buddha says we're asleep in ignorance, it means we just don't see it. We ignore the precious reality. Anyway, that's the teachings on karma, cause and effect. Could spend the whole session on those. But what I want to tell you is this. Gampopa says, if you think about it, which is usually what we don't do, but really think about it, chew on it, think, and he gives us a dialogue. Says, you think, okay, just a minute, Mr. Buddha. All right, so you're saying I've been reincarnating not just once, 100 times, 1,000 times, since beginningless time, more times than anyone could remember. Each sentient being's been your mother more times than you could ever remember. Either it's a load of baloney or it's not. Either the Buddha's got it wrong or not. But if it's true, so then Gampopa says, okay, and amongst all those trillions of rebirths, I must have had a precious human birth many, many times. And in those precious human births, I must have met Dharma, Buddha's teaching, the universal truth. Of course. Which is wonderful. And I must have practiced. So in brief, he says, what went wrong? Why am I here? Why do I have suffering? And he said, well, and then this is in fact the introduction to most of his book, all the different chapters. He said, we have in the past made 4 obstacles to our liberation. And what I'm going to teach are the remedies for those 4 obstacles. The first obstacle is that in those wonderful human existences, we got too involved with what was going on. All our time, all our energy, all our enthusiasm went into other people and stuff, the world, people and stuff. And so our day was busy running round after the 4 worldly concerns, trying to make the people and the stuff happier with less suffering and gain, not loss. And then so that we look good, feel good, we get praise and we have esteem and so on. These 4. So our mind got completely detoured into what we've been looking at this past month and a half. Chasing after all those things, reputation, possessions, relationships, and so on. So that just took up the time. Now, we don't want to make that mistake again this time round. So we have to be aware, mindful of just how busy, preoccupied our mind gets with people and stuff and the immediate daily concerns of worldly life. That was the one obstacle. The main teaching that Buddha gives us to counteract that is to wake up more and more and more. It's endless, to impermanence. The second obstacle in the past wasn't so much minute by minute, day by day involvement with people and situations. It goes much deeper. It's very interesting. It's a need to be, like the Shakespeare, to be or not to be. And even if we kind of see through, especially through impermanence, the running after stuff and the running after looking good in other people's eyes and so on and so on. Nevertheless, there's an inner yearning to exist, to manifest. And we only really discover that when we're trying to get free and follow the Dharma path, because then that pull of being becomes, as Gampopa said, an obstacle. So to remedy that, then the Buddha teaches, what's wrong with being? I remember a pottery exhibition I went to in Zimbabwe. And beautiful pots. And then when you pick up the pot and you look at the price underneath, they were by a very famous potter. And you put it down because you daren't drop it and break it and have to pay for it. The price of the beautiful pot. So Buddha teaches karma, cause and effect, and the sufferings of samsara. In order to be, first of all, we need a body. Once you've got a body, then you've got the five senses and hormones and biology, and all of that gets you pulled into stuff, the first obstacle. So that's the second obstacle. Briefly, the other two are we get involved with shamatha. See, these are sequential. Okay, we can get out of daily involvement, the turmoil of being involved with people and stuff. But then we have to deal next, once the ground's a bit clear, with this amazing, ancient, millions of lifetime habit of manifesting, being. So imagine we deal with that, we really understand more about karma and suffering. So then to get our mind out of the pull and to practice the Buddha's teaching, we do a lot of shamatha. Oh, and it's so nice. Oh, you feel you're not thinking all the time anymore. And there's this serenity. And because there's a serenity and the lack of stress and the hope and fear, the obvious hope and fear, then your inner channels and energies start falling into place. You feel blissful. You feel, this is what it's all about. This is what Buddha's teaching was all about. And then just like there was the pull of the world and people and attractive things and the repulsion of unattractive things and unattractive people and situations, now we get attracted to the well-being of inner peace. Now these days we have to be doubly careful, because although shamatha and the development of a serene, stable mind is vital for deep realization, not only can we just be totally attached to and drawn by and wanting nothing else, just like if you fall in love, you want nothing else than to be with the person you love. We can fall in love with shamatha and everything else, all that worldly stuff. You just want to be in that space. Some people call it the space. But then in that space, it has its own clarity and lucidity, and one can mistake those for Dzogchen and for Mahamudra. So anyway, getting unhealthily involved with the bliss and peace of shamatha is the third obstacle. And the Buddha's teaching to counteract that obstacle are the teachings on loving kindness and compassion, because the now powerful pull of shamatha experience and the sometimes illusions of clarity that it brings, means we are locked up in our own well-being. And when you really do shamatha, the very nature of shamatha, if you meditate on your breath, you get completely into the breath. You meditate on a candle flame, the candle flame. It's not about the person next door and the person on the other side of the world and the hell beings and the spirit realms and their suffering. So loving kindness and compassion means we can use shamatha in a healthy way as a basis for the development of a good heart. And then the fourth obstacle is very simply, we want to become Buddha, we want to become bodhisattvas, but we have not yet acquired the means. I had a very, very nice email from one of my students, which said basically, they were so happy because they heard me, been listening for a long time, but the person heard what I was saying. Now, this is so important. We have online so many teachings. We have in books so many teachings. We have access like nobody had in Tibet in the past to wonderful teachings by wonderful teachers. And our intellect hears them. A lot of us listens to them. But sometimes it actually breaks through the wax coating of ego. And so then I'm thinking of cars, old cars that were made of metal and that rusted. Sometimes the teaching gets through the wax coating of ego, and ego starts to rust because of Buddha Dharma. The rain, the constant rain of teachings, sometimes a bit gets through and the rusting starts. So maybe you've seen in some modern translators what we call Shravakas, who were the Buddha's close disciples. They are called hearers. It means they didn't just listen, they heard what he was saying. When people these days say, I hear you, I hear you. So anyway, if we want to hear the Buddha's teaching and really follow the 7-point mind training, become a bodhisattva in this life and in our future lives to come, then it is vital that we become aware of, second by second, sorry, my internet dropped there. So I have to. There we go. All okay? I'm back? Yeah. Yes, thank you. This has happened nearly every Saturday. There's a little drop in my internet here. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah. So now I've told you about the 4 obstacles. And for us, it's vital that we become aware of, second by second, day by day, as time goes by, the way our mind gets drawn into these worldly concerns. And then using whatever methods we've got, Chenrezig practice or Chut practice or any of the methods, this is why the Buddha taught us, we want to stop getting drawn in. So in Mahamudra, there is a very, very important term, which is involvement. Either you get involved in your mind's habitual activity, especially the first 2 of the 4 obstacles, involved in the things and people of this life, and just involved in manifesting, in being, in maintaining a persona of some sort. We need to watch that happening, understand it lovingly, kindly, patiently. Of course you do it. Of course I do it. I'm a Dharma teacher, but I do it. We must accept and acknowledge the power of habit, but then be kind to ourselves and gradually stop it. If it's happening, stop it. That was one of the 16th Karmapa's briefest, best teachings to me. When I asked him about this stuff once, he just looked me right in the face and said, stop it. No complicated remedies, do this, breathe that way, visualize this. Talking about my samsara, just don't do it. It's really as simple as that. Once you've got the mindful awareness, then you either just stop that nonsense, or you feed it. Involved, uninvolved. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say by way of a teaching. And then now with that in mind, and in particular with a focus on ourselves and on our Dharma companions, then the Tonglen practice today is about giving the strength and the courage to be able to do what I've just been saying. It's very, very important for us. Yeah. So must do some practice. Otherwise, I'll just talk us all the way through the session. So first we start with our Guru Yoga. And so you have this precious human body. Okay, we've seen the downfalls. You've got the five senses, which like pretty things to see and like nice sounds and so on, like nice physical sensations. We've seen that that can give rise to a lot of involvement. So the Buddha's teaching is, yes, but this body, when we learn to work with it, we can visualize, and we visualize this central life force channel, the gift of life that will be your main functioning energy channel until you die. So we visualize this from just underneath our heart center to the top of our head. We think of it here as transparent. And we try and attune to our body sensations and feel this as the central pillar of our being. And then the bottom of this central channel, which is about as thick as your thumb, the bottom of it, just below the heart, is closed. And in there, like a small world of its own, is the hub of your life force, the five elements, very, very active and in synergy with each other as a fountain of five lights. So we tune into that, we feel that just there, underneath your heart center. All your vibrancy, your energy, your mind power, your enthusiasm while you're embodied. And then on that fountain of light, we visualize a simple lotus, very open lotus flower of light. And the feeling of this lotus down there, just below the heart center, supported by all of that energetic fountain, is the ability in this life to be open and to receive. And this life force channel, our central pillar, at the top is open. So we let our awareness become aware and go to of the space above our head. Without limit, beyond this solar system, our galaxy, the cosmos, and the very heart nature of all of space is the loving kindness and compassion of Chinrezig. The sound of infinite space is the Om Mani Padme Hum, loving care for all beings in the six realms, including ourselves. And the brilliant white form of Chinrezig fills the whole of space, hearing the cries of each and every sentient being and seeing what is happening in our life and in every life. The nature of everything, primordially, is compassion. So we let our mind be, we let it blend with the total and unconditional compassion of Chinrezig. And then Chinrezig becomes smaller and smaller without losing any of the qualities, to the size of our galaxy, to the size of our solar system, to the size of our country and our house. And gradually Chinrezig, so brilliant with all the qualities, becomes just the size of the top of your thumb. A brilliant form of blessing, having all the blessing of our Kagyu gurus and all the Buddhas of the past and the present and the future. And then Chinrezig descends slowly into the top of our central channel, down through our brain, and past our nose and mouth and throat, slowly to descend to meet with the longing, the openness of the lotus in our heart center. And Chinrezig's loving compassion in the form of white light and many, many rainbow-colored lights fills all of our body and beyond, so that our presence now becomes an inviolable fortress of goodness and Buddha mind, and the basis for our Tonglen practice. And so as a first step in our Tonglen, we will start with ourselves. We always start with ourselves. And rather than thinking of ourselves as a fixed being, for me, thinking of a Ken, a worldly Ken, will become truer, more realistic, and think of all of those first two obstacles, habits that we are dealing with now through a new habit, Tonglen. So the habitual pulls to the things of the world and the people of the world that attract us in the way of the 8 worldly concerns. Those habits, and especially when they are recurring, or especially when one or another has been prevalent today or in recent days, then we know that this is what stopped us in the past, life after life. This wonderful opportunity was missed through the power of those impermanent attractions. It's like candy floss and a kid's fun fair. So attractive, so impermanent, never lasts. So that pull, which comes from so deep in our consciousness, such an ancient habit, we take it as black smoke and we feel it, we acknowledge it, we don't try and suppress it. That's there. We draw it towards us, feeling all of its past power and present power. But then when it comes into this perfect Chinresic presence, it just disappears. Like steam from a geyser up into space. Gone. And again, as it comes up for us, we remember it from past hours and days. We take it to the place where it can be truly liberated, not suppressed, not fought with, just gone. A place of non-involvement. Buddha's blessing, Chinresic's grace, as we're breathing in. But we feel its power. And then as we hold the breath, we stay in the perfect contentment beyond contentment of Buddha mind, of Chinresic's great love for everybody. And then when we breathe out, we breathe into our consciousness stream. Beautiful, healing, white light. Showing us the way to be uninvolved and to practice Dharma to the full. As our history comes again and again to try and catch us by the ankle and make us trip over. We breathe into ourselves wisdom. We breathe into ourselves a beautiful sense of humor, where rather than being totally paranoid when the past comes up, you can have a nice smile on your face and say, yeah, sure, and deal with it from a very relaxed place. We breathe into ourselves joy, the joy of Dharma. We breathe into ourselves the hope of liberation and the fear of samsara. Okay, thank you. Take a little break, good rest. Now we do something similar, but now as we are Tonglen doesn't work. As we're taking in our own habits of getting involved with the 8 worldly concerns, and then also the second habit of something inside that wants so much to be. And then another way is so scared of not being. What does it mean not to be? What would it be like? There's a kind of no man's land. Sorry, I'm having a memory, a very vivid memory from 1970 of crossing Iran. And there's a no man's land at the time between Iran and Afghanistan. Quite big, it's quite a few kilometers. It really is a no man's land. Nothing happens there. And then Afghanistan was so different. I'm from the tough border guards in Iran. When we got to Afghanistan, the guys invited us in for a cup of tea, sat down, wanted to chat, and they said, relax, you're free now. And they really wanted to help us relax. So anyway, no man's land. Dealing with this needing to be, not easy. It goes very deep. And we need to deal with it before we've gone through the no man's land and you tasted the freedom on the other side of Buddha mind, of pure bodhicitta. Of course, we get experiences of that. So anyway, as we're breathing in our own habit, a need to be, as we saw in the teachings this last month, to be in the eyes of others, to be something that's nice to be, and so on. Then now, in the next 3 minutes, we are thinking, if only, as I breathe in this need to be, if only I could be making the Dharma journey of us here, our Dharma brothers and sisters, and then all of our Dharma and Vajra brothers and sisters in this world, in our Sanghas, if only I could be helping them through the Tonglen, because we are connected, we are interdependent, we have the same teachers, we follow the same teachings. So if only I could just lift everyone up a bit, make their dealing with their habits that bit more efficient, so that they have the eyes of wisdom that see through what's going on, that don't let themselves get caught. If only. So as we're taking in the black smoke, now it's a lot of people's black smoke, and our Tonglen has to get used to that. It's like here, I don't know how many people, 30 or so, whatever. Most of them you don't know, but now with the black smoke, you're thinking, if only I could help him and her and all of them. Doesn't matter. I'm up for it. So now we start with a few and then we make it more. If only. And then, as always, as we hold the breath, and remember the first retreat, if you can, you breathe it more from your stomach. You hold your stomach in a little ball as you hold the air in. So there we just stay with Chinresik, beyond, beyond, beyond all of this. Pure love, pure compassion. And then when we breathe out into ourselves, the white light, we're breathing it into everyone here. And it's beautiful. It's like a gift of loving care. We're giving happiness. And it feels so happy to give, so joyful. And freedom, free at last from these ancient habits. And wisdom keeps its eye on the ball, and so on. Thank you. Thank you. Take a little rest. Good rest. let's go back to the first one of those. Now just dealing with yourself. This time, maybe focus more on this second obstacle, the need to be. You know, when we train in meditation, we learn to be aware of the breath. When you think of it, most people go through life, they're not really, of course they know they breathe, but they're not aware of their breath. And then when, as Buddhists, we start doing shamatha with the breathing, then you become very aware of what's always been there. This second obstacle, a need to be, I think we get more and more aware of as time goes by. On our Buddhist path, it's always been there, but maybe we need to clear the ground a bit of other things before we start to sense what it is. So that will vary with each of us. But now let's focus on that. As we breathe in the black smoke, we are breathing in our ignorance of who we are and of these samsaric pulls, and in particular, this need to be. Now, what I've seen over the decades, the years, the decades, is that as people advance on their Buddhist path, this can become stronger and stronger as an obstacle. And it's a subtle obstacle, it plays tricks. It's not so in your face as being involved with donuts. Donuts are donuts. A donut is there. If you can't resist the donut, then you can be aware of the pull of it, the victory of not, all of that is obvious. The pull of sexual attraction or whatever it is. But the need to be somebody, which we'll replace with the longing to be a bodhisattva. We won't just kill ourselves and be left in an awful empty vacuum. We'll understand better what it means to be a bodhisattva, to manifest, but in a way which has no personal agenda, involvement, no need for others to respond in a certain way in terms of the 8 worldly concerns. You can be a bodhisattva if you're poor, if you're rich. Being a bodhisattva doesn't need anything. So we ignore. So what we're breathing in with the dark smoke is our own ignorance of this second obstacle. We stay in Buddha mind, and then what we breathe into ourselves is lucidity. And always with this out breath, please try and be happy. We are breathing happiness into ourselves and other beings, so feel full of joy. Breathing the white light into ourselves to recognize our ancient habits in a very relaxed but efficient and effective way. Take a little rest, good rest. If we have more time, then we could also do a session like we just did, but taking in the wish not to be. So lots of Buddhists don't quite get the non-ego teachings right, and they are wanting not to be. We need to go into philosophy a bit and think a little bit about that. It means basically your being is defined by not being. And some Buddhists try very, very hard to do that, kind of ego bashing, ego shadow fighting, and then trying to go through life like the invisible man, invisible woman, and so on. They're trying very hard not to be, but we won't do that. So now for our next session, just like we did before, now we'll do a few minutes, the same as we just did, but thinking for our community here and all our Dharma brothers and sisters. If only through my dealing with the wish to be, if only that could help others. When we breathe out the white light, joyous feeling of giving the wisdom, the means, the relaxation, everything that we need and all our brothers and sisters need to deal with this huge obstacle to becoming a bodhisattva, and that makes us get reborn again and again. And now let's just sit for a few minutes, whether we're breathing in or out, but just in the radiance of Chinrezig in your heart center, filling all of space. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Let's dedicate today's session to everyone, of course, but also with a particular dedication that all of us can meet again and again, life after life, and support each other in the noble quest of Dharma. Sonam diye tamche zikpane tobnenye pedranam pamchene je ganachi pala prokpaye sipe sole drowa drowarasho jancho semcho rinpoche ma jepanam je jorshi jepan yampame padam kongne kongdo alwarasho Gewa diye nyotuda chenreze wan dropjone trowa chikjang malopa deye sala kamparasho